Surprise live. I think I got the microphone right. If anybody is on, let me know if you can hear me audibly because yesterday I had some technical difficulties. Apparently, I can't set the microphone on my live and keep it as such. Every time I do a live, I have to go back in and readjust settings until I figure that out. I'm going to talk about today how to raise your standards, and I get some messages. I had some comments where there's some confusion about what self-love represents and what raising standards represents, what that looks like, how you go about doing that, and I want to break it down. If you can hear me, let me know. This video is currently on friend mode for now. It will be uploaded once it's uploaded. Once it's finished, it'll be uploaded and available for share. Let me know where you are located. Drop in a hi. Good morning. Let's see. Gonna wait for a few more people to hop on. Okay, so people will always come back to the recordings. Raising your standards and what that looks like, having high standards. One big important thing is to stop saying yes to things that you really mean no to. Stop saying yes to things that don't feel right. Stop saying yes and agreeing to things that go against what you agree with, right? That's one thing. Good morning, Jamaica. How you doing, Queen? That's a big thing. The next thing is believing, obviously. I'm going to point out some obvious things, believing in yourself. And as I share this, the points that are obvious may not be as appealing, may be hard to swallow, maybe you could be saying to yourself, yeah, I know that's like an obvious, I should love myself, whatever, it's easy, but I don't know, it's easy for you to say, but I'm not sure how to get to that place. That means you have to look back at what you've allowed into your life, what door you've opened. And generally, when you feel that way, it's indicative of the people, places, things that you surround yourself around and with, people that you contract with intimately. Okay. You start to adapt to their thinking, their beliefs, their standards, things that you may not have initially agreed with. You start to lax up a bit and somewhat tolerate that. So you want to say no to these things. And if you've done those things and you have found yourself in a situation where you have settled for something that it goes against your initial beliefs, settled for something that you would not have otherwise settled for before, just pick up the pieces and get back on course and reinforce those standards and boundaries and say no more. Okay. I say this for two reasons. It's important in raising your standards and getting yourself in a better place and attracting better things to you. In addition to, it prevents you from becoming bitter, hardened, and to the point, yeah, we're all aware that there are some men out there that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but there are some men out there that have it right. They've cracked the code. You don't want to be like one of the women that I talked with recently, who has confessed. She's an awesome woman. She's confessed to having become very bitter and dealing with men, does not want to deal with men. And there's a lot of things that I can totally relate, to what she's saying. She has gone the opposite direction, whereas some women will say, I'm never dating again. That's it. It's over. Right. For her, she says that she's going to date whoever she wants and she's going to sleep with whoever she wants. She doesn't care if they're married, if they're in a relationship. She said that she's just going to do her, get what she wants, and be happy at the end of the day. Has uncovered that hasn't worked for her, and she was reacting out of her response to her anger, upset, and bitterness towards the betrayals and the things that she has gone through in relationships with men. How her response has been to basically do self-destructive things. So the amazing thing is that she has recognized that, and she is reasserting herself. She is putting herself back on course. So that's one example. And of course, as I mentioned, the other example is women who just swear off men. Okay. So I like to compare standards and raising your standards and your values and being firm. You want to, anybody, the women out there that get this thing called many things, boss babe, badass bitch, queen, you pick it, okay? Some people out there mistaken or confuse rather confidence with ego, and there's all these just gray areas. I personally, and I encourage my, people that are on board with this, anybody, it doesn't matter what the fuck anybody's opinion. Uh, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't dictate my course of action. It does not pollute my moral stance, because where I'm at, and which is something that I want to impart to all you women out there, is an amazing, empowering place to be. Because while everybody's doing the opposite and responding to things in unhealthy ways that bring destruction upon themselves, I'm choosing the opposite path, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, nobody wants to do that, okay? This whole self-destruct process. And there's a point in that. It's something that I want to shed light on, and something that no one should be doing. Nobody should be doing this. You do not have to put yourself in a position to self-destruct and harm yourself due to someone else's inability to function properly, to be respectful, to have standards of their own. He lied, he cheated, he did all these things. No reason to self-destruct for somebody else's issues. Okay, those are all his issues. Pick up your crown, get up again, move forward. Good morning, Nancy. Good morning, Queen. Okay, so what I'd like to point as an example, like say for example, you think of one thing that has empowered you. Think of one act of kindness, one act of self-improvement, that you have set for yourself, a goal that you have set for yourself, or something that you have done for somebody else that made you feel good, made you feel empowered, right? So I'll give an example, because it's a very, very big thing for diet, exercise. If you set a goal to diet and exercise, and, you fall off, you get back up again, and, you eventually master that, you reach the goals that you've wanted to obtain, right? You're looking good, you're feeling good, and inertia breeds inertia. So you're picking up a momentum, and every day it's like you look back at the other person and you're like, wow, I can't even remember that person, and I can't even imagine sitting idle today or eating this or that today, right? So you feel a great sense of empowerment. It shows in your character, it shows in your energy level, it shows in your vibe, whatever you want to call it. You're empowered by that, right? Right. That's a step, that's a standard. Just like while your girlfriends or somebody is having, affairs and cheating on her man, and, women out there acting and feeling as though they're empowered, and they speak, and I'm going to speak out of context for myself just so I can get the message across. Like, do you, girl? Fuck him. You don't need him. Fuck him and chuck him. Right? This is the talk I hear amongst women that have lost their crown. Right? Fuck him and chuck him. You don't need him. Get as many men as you want. Do you, girl, like he does himself. Right? Okay. Meanwhile, there's, like I've shared before, there's unwanted, unnecessary heartache. There are things that you are exposing yourself to with this mentality. There are, you are breaking down your spirit, your mind, your body, right? So because somebody is being self-destructive to you, you feel that it's best and plausible to take the same course of action. And us as women, we are not built like that. We are nurturers, we are healers, we are lovers, we are fighters. We are warriors. You are not built. So you're operating outside your God-given role as a woman to do something that's completely destructive and completely opposite of what you are designed to be and do. That is going to break you down. That's going to tear you down. And I've seen many women lose their way, lose their path, and they go down a very deep, dark portal. And then they're in these toxic relationships with men. They're giving second, third, fourth, 50 million chances to men that are continually cheating. They get boxed in. Then you're going down a whole other avenue where Stockholm Syndrome is kicking in. So this topic is so vast. I'm going to be touching on it a great deal. Uh, you don't want to get to that point because you're breaking yourself down little by little, peg by peg. And what you're ultimately doing is eroding your identity. It gets to the point where you can't decipher right from wrong, black or white. And unfortunately, in some cases, a lot of cases, it gets to the point where people don't care anymore. I've spoken with women that are depressed, that have become suicidal, the whole, just wanting to give up, just all these different things that come with breaking down your standards, your boundaries, listening to the wrong people, listening to the wrong advice, and worrying about one loser. One loser. That's the biggest point that I want to drive home. One loser. There's millions of people in this world. Millions, right? The other thing that I'd like to shed light on before I start going more into reinforcing your standards is a very big thing that comes up. And this does not pertain to every single woman out there. So I want to set the record straight. Well, there must be something toxic and broken in that individual in order for that woman to end up attracting or being with a toxic individual. And, there you go. Absolutely, positively, fucking not. It doesn't work like that. So you women out there that have encountered more than one relationship, deception is not your issue. Deception is not your fault. Deception is not your responsibility, right? So the women out there, and yes, I'm going to say again, it is possible to encounter one or more relationships. And while some of those situations are, yes, indicative of where that individual is with themselves, right? A lot of times it's not. Okay. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, women who know their worth, love themselves, and stand for something, basically, you also have broken men, broken people attracted to what they have, what a woman has. If a woman is having healthy standards and boundaries, her attracting a toxic man or a broken man has absolutely no bearing in some cases that there's something broken within her. It is the man who is broken is looking for somebody, oh, that's the one that can fix it. Absolutely, positively fucking not. So there's a message out there for the men. You're going to encounter two things, you men out there that are looking for the mommy, the fixer, from women that know their worth and where they stand. And one thing is you're going to get drop kicked out of their life. You're going to be kicked to the curb, cut off. There's no second, third, fourth chances. It's bye-bye, right? Second thing is by doing that, you are failing to fix the issues within yourself, okay? And moving forward, you get into other relationships with women, always trying to look for them to fix you. And then if there's a woman that is, a little bit topsy-turvy about her self-worth and where she's at, unfortunately, these women get stuck in those type of relationships. And that's where your codependency comes in. A woman who knows her worth, where she's at, may initially give an opportunity to a man in this situation, right? And if she chooses to do so, there's usually boundaries, there's a time frame. And generally that does not happen right away. Usually it's a woman that's already gotten herself involved with this type of man emotionally and says, let me give him a time frame on getting XYZ, this or that fixed, right? So There are two problems with that. And the one thing is you can get stuck in those relationships. You're actually putting yourself at risk. And my suggestion is to not do that. The man is to be cut off. You walk away from that relationship and you let them know this is now going into the standards. You let them know, see you when I see you. We can't be together. Work on what you have to work on. I'm going to do what I have to do and move forward. And if we meet up again and I feel differently, there's another opportunity, then perhaps we could try this again. That's it. Now, this is said and done, of course, without there being any cheating, abuse, and things of that nature, because if those things exist, you're clearly just cutting that individual off. You're not giving, any peaceful goodbyes, right? And generally, a woman that sets those boundaries, when she has encountered a man that she literally stopped in his tracks right there and then, to not move forward with that type of man, knowing that it'll lead to a lot of issues, heartache, confusion, drama, right? She doesn't ever really look back at that individual again. It just doesn't work a lot of times that happens. So raising your standards and having boundaries is not following the masses, not being a sheep. Just because everybody's having sex with multiple people, it must be okay. Saying yes to things that you really want to say no to. Doing things that compromise and degrade or tear down your self-worth and integrity in order to be accepted by a man, to be embraced by a man. The biggest thing out there, and I've heard some women, I just want to be loved. I just want to feel loved. And love yourself. Give that love to you. And if you don't know what that looks like, you have to find that. Now, that's something that nobody out there is going to be able to teach and instruct on, because you live with yourself 24/7. You know you best, right? So the bottom line is loving yourself. But I promise you, if you are holding firm to your standards, you are not faltering in that, you are not following the masses, you are not agreeing with a partner, whether he be a husband or a boyfriend, to have multiple affairs, to introduce multiple affairs into your relationship, to do things that you're uncomfortable with, to agree with not having a committed relationship and jumping into something with committed emotions void of the outcome being commitment or something more. Set the boundaries. Set the boundaries. If you are cowering, you feel weak about certain things, if you're convincing yourself like everybody's doing it, it's whatever, you're going to find down the road it's not really that simple. It's not, because everything that you allow that you genuinely don't agree with is going to have a negative outcome eventually. There is nothing wrong with saying, I don't want to give you another chance. One of the biggest things that is it's really abused, is the fact that we have to. We're not kind. We're not loving. We're not forgiving. Give a second chance opportunity. That is not something that we have to abide by when it comes to protecting our energy, our space, our body, like everything, our family. If something is toxic and it is not looking promising to be corrected, or some of the men out there have I don't need anything, I don't have to do anything, I don't have to fix anything, right? That's on them. You have every right to walk away from that. If you are feeling bad, and I've talked to some women that feel, but I just feel so bad, like I just want to help him. And hey, this guy stepped all over you. He's lied, he's cheated, he's degraded, he's off again, on again. stringing you along, you feel bad for him. You feel bad for him. He's not your project. He's not something you can fix. That is his problem. Those men generally will drift off and go to the women that are equally broken, right? And that is a fact. And that's, again, what I said earlier, that's where the codependency begins. And it is not about fixing one another. That is never what any type of relationship should be founded upon. It's not the foundation of that. Supporting one another should not be confused with fixing somebody, right? So we all have free will, period. And as I shared in a post earlier, the free will that these people, that men will use, immature men will use, losers literally, to cheat and to lie. While it's their free will to choose to do those things, if they are deceiving another individual, right? That individual didn't choose that. Like, so somebody's choice to be destructive affects other individuals in their path and around them through deception, right? There is no reason to soul connect, join forces with any individual that operates like that. That is a draining thing. And there are so many women discussing this right now, how they feel drained. I've been through it. I see what it looks like. It is not something you want to try to fix, entertain. Stop beating yourself up for somebody else's issues, problems. They are not your problem. They are not your concern. And they're certainly not thinking about it. They may cry to you about it, these losers, these men out there that do this and talk about how they're just trying to be a better person, and they do a lot of talking, right? So while they're pulling on your heartstrings, and some may truly want or like the idea or dance with the idea of wanting to be a better person, because I firmly believe if you really want something, you make it fucking happen. You make that happen. Just like if he wanted to cheat and he saw something else that he wanted, what did he do? What did he do while in a relationship with you, while he's giving you the stories and the boo-hoo of how he's trying to be a better man? He wants to be a better man, but his actions actually showed what he really wanted. He wanted to remain in that broken, immature state and remain having the inability to coexist in a healthy union and relationship. That is completely impossible at that given time. And for a lot of men out there, that's a permanent path to be in a relationship with somebody like that. If they want to change, they would have done that. They would have fixed that, and they would have had themselves ready for when it comes time to meeting somebody that is on the same page. Anytime a man starts talking to you about, I'm just looking for friends right now, and I just want to see how we vibe, and I'm not looking for anything very serious. I just came out of a relationship. Like, you just came out of a relationship. What are you doing going on dates? What are you doing on dating sites? Women, what are you doing entertaining that, right? Date over, cut it off, right? That's it. The whole idea of accepting these men that are saying or giving their sad stories about how they're not ready to have a relationship. They're just looking for friendship and they want to see what transpires. And they're on dating sites, right? But they're on dating sites, and some of them will put looking for a relationship. Some are just blatantly nasty. They'll put out their friends with benefits. The bottom line is they're giving the same story and they're giving the same line to multiple women. Like, don't put yourself in that category. And that is part of raising your standards. Let your no be no. Let your yes be yes. Do what empowers you. You go on a date, you think it's good. I talked with a woman the other day. She went on a date. She's vibing with this guy. Everything sounds really great. He looks good. He sounds good. And then there was a few red flags that came up. And then she figured, well, I'm going to give him another chance. I'm thinking about it. I'm not too sure. Maybe he was a little nervous and he did just come out of something. Like there's already this process of having to figure out what to do, trying to figure him out. If anybody is that complex, right? And the next step is that complex, just squash it. Squash it. It's about knowing what you want, believing in what you want, having standards. It's about having an individual that has those same things. Not wishy-washy, not a wavering mind, not a whole big boohoo story about past issues and those issues actually still exist. Okay? So another thing is, as a woman, and this topic comes up, we should be able to wear whatever it is we want to wear. This goes in as well with standards, feeling good about yourself. And to look good and to feel good is a wonderful thing. To dress and look sexy is a wonderful thing. Okay? Nobody's saying that you have to, when I have spoken about this, it's not go out and bundle up and wear a turtleneck every single day of your life. Not saying that at all, but there is a way to present yourself. Now, the issue we're having that is not being looked at is one of the sites that I have shared out of many have millions of users that are operating and using these sites specifically to cheat on their partners and their spouses. This is like, whatever. We've talked about this topic. I've brought this up before. So these men that are on these sites that are interacting with these women who are not feeling beautiful enough and having some self-esteem issues, or my husband isn't doing this or that, and over on the other side my wife isn't doing this or that. The woman saying, I just want to feel sexy and loved. And understand, please, women, and I know a lot of you already get this, but for the younger girls, the teens, there are predators. There are predators that count on this, that prey on this. They prey on you not feeling loved. They prey on you saying you've never had anybody to love. You should be loving yourself, right? They prey on you saying how your partner isn't doing what they need to be doing. They're not satisfying you and you don't feel sexy enough. And meanwhile, what's happening? Vicious cycle, right? So these women drop their guard, they drop their defense, they drop their standards, they're completely, utterly broken. If you're unhappy in a union, exit it. If you can't work that out and you can't resolve that, exit it. Exit it. The longer you stay in something like that, the more you're going to drain yourself and you will lose yourself and your identity and fall into a lot of things that you don't want to fall into. So these women are operating outside the way that is exuding class, respect for themselves, strength. And it's like, hey, over here, open target, right? You will find them because they have these insecurities. They are sending nude photos to married men on these sites. They're sending nude shots and text messages. While this may be their choice and their prerogative, they're not happy. And I've talked with women like this. They're not happy. They're looking for that satisfaction of feeling loved, wanted, and told that they're beautiful. There are ways to get that. And number one, that is giving that to yourself. So these men that are operating on these sites, that are having encounters with women like that, automatically think all women encompass this type of behavior and thinking. So a woman who has grounded herself, has those standards, if she decides to dress a certain way or operate in a certain way that is sexy, shows a little skin, but she's not one of those women that's just going to be easily manipulated, targeted, and when those men find out, they run and they cry like little bitches that they are, because that's usually how that works out. But stepping back because of these other women, you women out there that are representing yourself, right? You're setting an example for the other women around as well. Just like you men out there that are acting like losers, you're setting an example for the men around. Now, while a man's choice to be immature and to do these things should not fall and be the burden of every other man, and while a woman chooses to do those things, it should not fall upon or be the burden of every single woman. But the fact of the matter is, one bad apple does spoil it for the bunch. And if we fail to look at that truth, if we fail to not address that truth, we're going to continue to be at war, both sides, male and female, right? So the thing that is important to understand, and one of the other messages that I'd like to get out there, is because any man out there that has been manipulating, using, abusing women while they're in a hurt, conflicted state, obviously shame on you. You're a fucking loser. Because if you have to step out and try to break others down in order to validate yourself, your position, or whatever it is that you're trying to do, you're a loser, pretty much. So women out there, the message is, in order to embrace who you are, to raise your standards, is to stop settling, stop tolerating bullshit, set your boundaries. Stop feeling bad or sorry for these men who are emotionally immature. Has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not they're ready, because you have men that are in their 50s and 60s acting and carrying out these things, okay? So coming to the conclusion and recognizing there are definitely two classes of people, okay? And that's just all there is to it. So some people are going to just wise up and do what's right, and others, they will not care and not give a fuck till their dying day. And that is the unfortunate truth that points to a big factoid, and that is, you can't fix everybody. You can't fix everybody. So it's protecting your energy. Stop worrying and giving attention to things that aren't going to matter like 5 years from now. Okay? Respecting your body, respecting your time, respecting your space. This whole idea, use your sex appeal to empower you. You should be looking good and feeling good for your damn self. That's it, right? Some guy that is not worthy of your time and attention, as you uncover through a date, through potentially a few dates, and then you get into a relationship and he cheats, out the door. Out the door. He's lying. You hear this or that. Oh, but the other woman said it and she was with him. She's just bitter because he doesn't want her anymore. He wants me, so she's going to tell me anything. You women out there need to listen to those women. I say that, but you're still going to do what you want to do. Because if a woman leaves a guy and she is trying to warn another woman, and she has no interaction with that guy, she has left that guy, she has cut the cord, there's like nothing that she wants from him, it's pretty much safe to say that she's giving you a heads up. She's giving you a heads up. If she's still attached to him and there's some clinginess and there's some whatever going on and she's reaching out to him and then she's trying to tell you bad things about him and say, girl, I got your back, I just want to let you know. But meanwhile, she's talking to him behind your back. Obviously there's a problem on both ends. And that's some Jerry Springer shit that you guys don't need to be involved with. It's like, you see that going on right there. That's a firm reason to exit that. Protect your space, protect your energy. You don't need to be involved or connected to individuals that are operating in this way, that don't know what they want, that are selling themselves cheap, constant confusion, constant back and forth. It's exhausting just talking about it. Right? So you women out there, I know you get not only exhausted, but you get fed up, but shedding a tear, crying, going through the process and doing what it takes is not weak, and that's an okay thing. Being stuck in that process, remaining in that process, and stopping that process, which is even worse, stopping that process by going back to the loser, because he promised that this won't happen again, or this is different, yada yada. Guess what? Wounds are going to reappear again. There's going to be even more wounds after that. You got to love yourself. You got to love yourself. And each day that you set these boundaries, you say, I believe in love. I believe there is a good person out there. Right now, I'm focusing on me until that person arrives. But you don't sidetrack yourself. You don't lose focus on the things that you have to do. You don't look for that person. And that's the truth. You work on you. You love you. And as you start to do that and you're setting boundaries, some of the women, I see a lot actually, so I shouldn't say some. I have come across posts, I get in my inbox, comments from women talking about men sending dick pics. I mean, this is a problem. This is a problem. Just the blatant disrespect that is out there from you men. Like, wake the fuck up. Generally, if you're a random dude or not, and you're sending dick pics and being intrusive in a woman's message box, and your message has been sitting there for every woman's got a message in her inbox from some friggin' shady dude dating back from 200 BC. So it's safe to say, you men out there that are sending, these messages, in an attempt to connect women, if they're not responding and they're telling you to back off, they're not interested. They're not interested. It's really thirsty. It's disgusting. It is disrespectful to women. And so I am really impressed with the amount of women that are calling it out, that are saying that it's ridiculous and it is disrespectful. And this is where the disrespect for men come in. Step up to the plate. Also, men should be protecting women. You see women getting harassed, in public, things of that nature. Step the fuck up. Step up. There are men that are ganging up on women in public. 3, 4, 5 men catcalling women in public. And there are men, suit and tie, that claim to be whatever, or maybe not. Maybe they're just hiding it well. But any other man that walks by and they see multiple men or one man approaching a woman catcalling, hey, what's up, sexy? Hey, this and that. The fact that another man does not know his place and stand up for that woman is also sending a message. It's also sending a message as a whole. Okay? It sends the message that as a man, even if you had a child, a daughter, would you approve of your daughter being spoken to like that? I'm sure you would say something. I'm sure you would say something. You don't necessarily even have to say anything to the men who are catcalling. If you're concerned with confrontation, especially in this day and age, whatever, you can obviously, people can gauge people can pretty much, most people can gauge and determine what they can say and what's permissible and not permissible. So you could just go up to the woman and apologize on behalf of men that they are being catcalled and mishandled like that in public. Okay? So I'm not really concerned about what rap videos are showing and women shaking their ass and this is perpetuated on TV and whatever else, because we are responsible for our choices at the end of the day. That's like saying that every person out there that watches a movie and sees somebody shooting up heroin in the movie, they're automatically going to become a heroin addict. Like, everything we watch, is going to cause an individual to do that. If you have standards and you have boundaries and you know who you are, what you will and will not tolerate, right from wrong. It is not wise to be cheating on a partner, lying, to be infiltrating these sites and being deceptive. It is not right to degrade your body and put yourself down. If you are, again, not being sexy for you, loving you, finding your self-worth instead of looking for it in other places. There's this whole big conflict out there that needs to seriously be addressed. You hold your ground. You know what it is that you need to do. And the women out there, like I was saying, that are standing up to these issues in the inbox and how these men are approaching them and how disgusting it is. As time goes on, it's like working out a muscle. It's working out a muscle. You get stronger and stronger in that, in your moral standing, and you're unscathed, untouched. It doesn't, nothing penetrates you. Nothing will get to you on the level of a man saying to you, well, you're being prude. That if a guy is saying that you're being prude because you're not agreeing to fuck multiple people in the relationship or allow him to do that, I would basically say it's time to, like, yeah, run for the hills, because the guy's either already has something or not, is about to, has complete head issues, okay, already is telling you that he disregards himself, disrespects his space, his time, his body, and he only basically entertains other individuals or partners that do the same. Like, that is not a match made in heaven. I feel very bad for the women that reach out and say that these things have happened to them. They've trusted a guy. They have entered into agreements and lifestyles that they otherwise would not have entered into because they believe that every guy out there operates like this. Okay. So, in a nutshell, you men out there, if you have any gripe, complaints, and you want to scream and yell feminist, I think it's time that you look in the fucking mirror. I think it's time that you wake up. I think that if you are looking for respect from a woman, adoration, and to be able to be looked upon as somebody that can lead in a relationship, lead in their household, then do so. If you are not happy in a marriage, in a union, it is your moral obligation first to yourself to dissolve that union if it cannot be worked out, instead of infiltrating sites and preying upon women, especially you men out there. If you have children and daughters, you would not like that being done to your own children. This is, or your daughters rather, this is a huge epidemic and a huge problem. And like I said before, truth is controversy. I'm going to always keep spitting that out, but the truth shall set you free, right? And when we embrace the truth instead of the lie, we can actually begin to do the work. Okay, so there's no more of this talk, at least for this day coming forth, and more to come, about how men will always be in a position, or currently and has been, to say, not all men are like this. So the men that believe, that say that, step up to the plate, start supporting the women. You see women being mishandled in public, being catcalled, so on and so forth. If you're afraid to approach the men doing it, walk up to a woman and say to her, I apologize on behalf of all men. We all don't operate like that. That speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. Okay. So I would also want to warn men, you catcall women, you don't know what kind of toxic relationship they just came out of. So, like, just putting that out there. Be safe. And as far as women go, know your worth, embrace your worth, stop believing the lie. Yes, if you want to dress sexy, and I'm not sitting here saying, like, have your ass hanging out as you're walking in public or whatever. You don't have to be in turtlenecks. Never imply that, for those that didn't get the message that I wrote a while back, which was there's a difference between being sexy and slutty, and there is a difference. And my stance on that is, again, men that are infiltrating these sites that are known for them to cheat on their partners and their wives. You have women that are engaging with these filthy acts. These men, they're not any different than these men. You women out there that are doing that, you are this in the same mental stance and are in that same energy as those men. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing together. And I'm just saying, there's hope for you. There is hope for you. Just stop it. Just backtrack, find your worth, love yourself. So in that man's eyes, that's how they're looking at you. We're not going to ignore the fact that these terms exist, right? The term slut and all these things. Women have dealt with that. And no, it's not a fun thing to be called. and know it's not a right thing to be called, right? Get your self-worth back. Just like these men are being called losers and immature. Is that nice? Absolutely not. There are men that are sluts just as well, right? So what are we really saying here? Okay? So if you're unfortunately presenting yourself as a woman and you're embracing all that is woman, your sexiness and your vibe, there are idiots out there that are entertaining women who are just freely giving of themselves and their time. And these men have this boxed in thinking that every single woman out there is like that. And for the most part, the women out there that are dressing like that are the same women that are on these sites. You follow? So they're out there and they're how they're presenting themselves in public is precisely how they're presenting themselves on these sites that are specifically designed for men and women to cheat on their spouse, their boyfriends, their girlfriends. So yes, there are different sets of standards going on here. And my message is that that can be changed. There's hope for that. You don't have to, like I said to the other woman, that, I mean, the biggest thing is recognizing that you're operating in a way trying to get a man's attention based on either just this need of wanting to feel loved and embraced and all these things. It's okay. It's not to say that intimacy is a sin and that you are a weak person because you want those things. It's about who you give that to, who you expect that from. And you should be expecting that from yourself first, and you should be giving that to yourself first. And as you do that and you walk in that and you hold true to your standards, build it like a muscle, you are going to grow in strength. You are going to go and grow in strength and boundaries. And one thing that I can't guarantee, because it will happen, is as that happens, you're going to find men getting pretty pissed off, because I've experienced that, and some of the ladies that I talk to and work with, they've experienced that. They get pretty nasty and bitter because it's like they're immature to start with. So it's an obvious thing, and I laugh at it because what it really boils down to is they don't get their way. Right? So they're used to going on these sites and these women that are making it easy for them and they're getting their way. And then when you meet a woman of my caliber and women that are also in the same ring, circle, whatever you want to call it, they freak out, right? So stop making it easy for these women, these men, ladies. Like, stop making it easy. Pretty simple. Stop messing with these men that don't know where they're going, what they want, whether they want to be in a relationship today or the next day. Again, there's absolutely nothing wrong. If you were in a situation, you got deceived, you got caught up in something, cut the cord. Cut the cord. That you still have your boundaries intact. You still have your standards intact. If you continue on in the relationship and you keep going at it and at it for months and years, again, you lose your identity, you wear yourself down, you weaken your muscles. It's like you're gonna have like no muscle mass at the end of the day, and then you're wondering why you're completely broken down, because you're spending your time, energy, attention and on a loser. On a loser. It's like it's going nowhere, it's doing nothing. And this is a fact. It doesn't matter, how it's sugar coated the next day or not. The individual, if they have already abused your trust, your time, it's time to pack it in. The longer you remain firm and the more guys that you encounter that are not being respectful, they are not transparent. And I'm going to break it down in another video. I'm going to actually have a list outlined, because I did discuss a while back that I'm going to talk about this, and I had done my work here. My videos that I'm doing right now, they're free for all. They're open for anything to anybody to comment, what have you. But I'm going to break down all the nonsense, all the lines, okay? And I have 2 binders filled, okay? All the lines and nonsense that these men will use to deceive, okay? And when you encounter them, and some of you women are already familiar with these things, okay? And I'm so proud about that. I hear more and more women coming forward and they're like, yep, I call bullshit. out the door. Love it. Love it. Breaks my heart when I see women don't calling bullshit or coming in and saying how they know that this guy was entirely toxic. And the stories and the evidence of how the guy completely turned their lives upside down. And then they're coming back and they say, I broke down and took his call, or I'm going to go back. He says he's going to do X, Y, Z. And that is a very sad thing. And then there's women in our group that will discourage that and say, please no. And it's like pleading, for that woman not to do it. And a few of them so far have already come back and they were just like, big mistake, right? So it's a disheartening thing. But ultimately, the more you say no to what doesn't serve you, the more you walk away from what doesn't serve you, the stronger you become, the happier you become, the healthier you become. Those that have been in my secret group, you saw what I was before to what I am now. So I'm just going to kind of condense this right now. And what I'm going to say is this. The myth out there that women, there may be a defect or something broken in the woman to attract toxic men is a myth, and it's bullshit. While it's true, yes, that people that haven't fixed and worked on their issues, because I've talked about this and agree with this, can attract and get into these type of broken relationships. A lot of times, and this is where I have found women that are getting extremely pissed off. These are women that have boundaries and standards, and in these situations, they didn't just accept a whatever position on a date or whatever the guy said. There are women that have the insecurity issues, the self-esteem issues, and they allow certain things, they excuse certain acts and behaviors and ignore those red flags because they haven't worked on what's in them. They're very desperate for that time, attention, and that relationship. So they get into the relationship and things go southward. How that's fixed is by fixing what's going on inside, and you are less likely to end up in those situations down the road. And that comes in, again, with the self-awareness, self-esteem, working on you, knowing that you're worth more than what anybody has to say, right? And on the opposite end, there are women that already have boundaries and standards, and there are men out there that are aware of those things and know that this woman is going to be a little harder to get to, so they will deceive. They will say and do and act out things according to the standards and boundaries in place that woman has. And again, it's an act of deception. And then when they get that woman, the mask falls off. That's why there's a lot of women out there, especially ones that I work with, some strong ass women that are pissed because of that type of deception. It's like these men are mutating. They're like mutating. It's despicable. Like I laugh, but it's generally not funny. It's actually sickening. It's a crisis. It's like, to spend that much time and energy to mutate and to manipulate and to deceive someone for your own means, gains, and advantages. Like that's, if you could spend that much time doing that, damn, like, can you imagine what that time spent and that energy spent on doing that? And there's men out there doing this for years, what that would look like if you were actually doing it to fix yourself. Like, what? But I don't know, for some reason that escapes people's thinking. So to recognize that there's two sides of the fence here, and that to never settle, that if another woman is completely done with a partner and just, you know that this woman has no contact as far as being a woman's woman, this woman has no contact, and it's definitely a done deal and it's over, and she says, listen, just so you know, this is a done deal for me. I want you to know what's happened here. Uh, Listen to that. Heed that. You may not, okay, I'm not going to say to you, just end the relationship right then and there. Okay. But definitely put your glasses on and don't dive right into something. Listen to that. Because I also have men, I have women rather, coming to me telling me that they should have listened to the other woman. Right? So for argument's sake, how about we look at it like this? You women out there that are getting hurt and ended up being bitter as a result, and there's nothing wrong, I get all that. That decide now they're gonna just like free for all and sleep with every man out there, you know, or have revenge sex and all this stuff, like damaging yourself. For the women out there that have been warned by other women, like what this guy that you're getting involved with is really like and what he's about, you know, and you ignore that and then you think, you know, you find out a while after, I should have listened to her, right? Look at this. Let's like look at this as a war. We call ourselves warriors. We call ourselves, right? I see so much about women and strength, and look at this as a war. It literally is like women. It's men versus women here. It's like this is a war. You should not be letting these men come in easily. You should be completely disgusted with how they're treating other women. Like this is, and sticking together. Okay. And I unfortunately see with some women, it's the loneliness of feeling alone and not having anything or anybody is taking priority over rationale and smart decision making. And they're ending up selling themselves completely short and in vile situations that are literally based upon just low self esteem, wanting something so bad, you know, they feel by themselves, they're alone, this and that. There's so much to do and so much to embrace, and I cannot begin to explain right now because I've taken up quite amount of time already to occupy your mind, your time, and your space with something that is so much more productive for you, that you are so much, you're worth more than being on a hit list for half of these sites that are out there being lied to. You're worth a lot more than that. And remember, every time you let some guy, some loser guy erode that, you're taking yourself down a number of notches. Okay? Losers are not worth that. They're not worth your time. And the moment you get that ingrained in your head, it's if they want to call you whatever it is they want to call you for feeling that way, that again is their problem. They're just pissed off that you're calling them out on their bullshit. Walk in that, lady. Walk in that, girl. Walk in it. The more you say goodbye to that and what's not serving you and stop giving chances to these idiots, the more empowered and strengthened you become. You know, it's very simple, very simple. You've been in a relationship for a long time. That part's hard. Oh, but I love him. It's been years. No more. No more. Cut the cord. Cut the codependency. Love yourself. Love yourself. So you can start today by, you have somebody toxic in your life right now. You have a toxic man in your life. He's lying. He's cheating. You know. You know he is. I just had somebody tell me last night. He told me he wouldn't cheat again, and I caught him on several sites. Now's your time to empower yourself. Go at it. Now's your time to empower yourself. If you're living with them, make a plan, make your escape plan, pack your shit, and hit the road. Ghost. Bye. You don't need to explain anything. How many times did you talk? How many conversations did you have prior? Oh, you left, right? You leave, and then he's calling your phone and asking questions, so on and so forth. Like, that ship has sailed. That's empowering. Because you basically are saying no to the bullshit. You're not tolerating it anymore. You've given chances. My word is my word. No need to threat. I don't make threats. I'm now going to act upon it. You have lost access to me indefinitely. That's where you get your empowerment from. You do it even if there are tears in your eyes. You do it even if you're in pain or you're confused about this. you push through, girl. You push right on through, because at the other side is a pot of gold. It's your self-worth, it's your self-respect, it's self-love, it's greater opportunities, because now you've gotten rid of the big boulder in front of the door. Okay, start today by doing that. Cutting out what does not serve you, setting boundaries. You have X amount of time to get this addressed. If it's not, you already know what's going to happen. And there's no more explanations and no. What amazes me, and I'm going to close with this, what amazes me and is so confusing is that people will complain and spend so much time working out or trying to work on or work out something that is completely horribly wrong for them. It's obvious, it's toxic. They're tired of struggling, fighting, complaining, and asking the questions. But that doesn't really faze them, and that isn't as bad and doesn't really get as big of a rap than walking away and cutting somebody off. It's like, oh, that's just so mean to do. We just don't walk away. We just don't walk and cut people off. We don't run with scissors and have scissors every. There are some cases and some situations where it is your life, it is your mental well-being. Like, that is the best course of action when you are dealing with somebody that is destructive to yourself, okay, your mind, body, soul. The best. Put so much bad emphasis on walking away, or the talk like, oh, that's not good, that's not, you don't just do that, you don't just do that. You're putting therapists in business, by the way. I'm letting you know that, okay? Because there are some situations where you do walk out that door. There are some therapists today where it's getting a lot better. They're allowing you to, they're actually giving some advice. Whereas way back when, because the coaches are on the rise and they're calling this shit out. But way back when, they would say, well, how do you feel about this? What do you think? You know, like, the person is toxic. And the thing is, back then, they didn't want to say leave the relationship because then they were afraid it would backfire. If they got, you asked my opinion, you asked my suggestion, here it is. It's up to you to follow it. If you decide to follow it, then that's it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we all know when something is not serving you, it is perpetually toxic, it keeps repeating, it's time to cut the ties. So it's always been a big, bewilderment to me, but at the same time shocking how people will push for people to stay in the wrong relationships. Work it out, work it out, work it out, rather than cut off. Cutting off is just, you're so evil, you're just quitting, you're just bouncing. No, if you've given somebody thousands of opportunities and chances and you've done the counseling route and you've done whatever it is and you're back to square one, it's time to exit the relationship indefinitely. And that's it. Okay. And my hope is for the women that are watching these videos, past videos, the things that I'm sharing, the things that I'm putting out there, that they don't ever end up in that scenario. It's also like a preventative thing. I don't want to find women in these situations months and years down the road and things become an even bigger mess. Stop it at the door, set your boundaries, set your standards, say no, start today. Removing what does not serve you, getting rid of the people that are lying to you, harming you mentally, physically. Make a plan. Make a plan. And as always, you can reach out to me. You know where to find me. I love you all. God bless, no stress. Next video, I'm going to point by point discuss the deceptions, all the tactics. That one's going to be a little bit more fun because I know some people are going to hear some things that are familiar. They're going to be able to identify and throw in, which I encourage, throw in some of the deceptive talks and words that you've heard men use to try to get you into bed or to get you into a relationship, or to get you on their list of relationships, because now we have that today, men who are just collecting women, right? And they're hiding it. And then there's the women that are accepting this. So please love yourself, respect yourself. A lot of what I write, it talks about this, and there are tips and tricks on how to do that as well. And I will elaborate more on it in videos. I'll talk more with you all about it. This is not going away. So I have a YouTube video, which we are building different forums. I'm going to do Instagram videos. I'm opening up things on all social media platforms so that people can have access to it wherever they go, wherever they are. And if I have one issue with one account, I have already contacted people. I have 3 other accounts so that you can still reach out to me there. This is going to keep going. This is going to build momentum. Pretty soon, there the guest speakers that I've discussed. I'm not putting on Facebook. I'm going to do that on YouTube. So we're going to have men's perspective on this about how men need to rise to the plate, and that there are men rising to the plate, assisting women and leading as an example, and basically calling other men out that are immature on their bullshit. Um, there are some people in some nonprofits that I am aware of that I'm going to be reaching out to as well to hop on board as a guest speaker. They're men. They're men. So be gentle, ladies, when they come aboard, because they aren't the immature types and they cannot stand the bullshit that's out there. In fact, they're standing up against it. So all YouTube discussions will house guest speakers, not on Facebook. Facebook, I'm going to be doing my lives. They're free for all lives, and some will be focused topics. The Motivation Queens quote page, that name will be changing. There's a surprise coming up, and some information as to why, but that page will remain. The quotes are there, and they come from my encounters with relationships and deception, and saying and basically putting in word format that I feel you, but then as I say that I feel you and I understand you, this is what you're going to do about it. Rise up, take charge. So I tailor all my quotes to show, that there is a unison in how you feel and what you're going through, but there is a solution. And it's a variation of, you're all familiar with it if you go on the quotes page. I love you all, right? God bless, no stress, like I've always said. Remember, the truth is controversial and the truth is necessary, because the truth shall set you free. And it's important and wise to embrace the truth as opposed to a lie. The lie that's out there, and I'm just going to keep shedding some light on that every single day. I'm just going to keep going at it. So have a wonderful day, and like I said, take the steps today. Get rid of the trash. Clean the trash up all around you, all that clutter, okay? Don't need to be no hoarders. Don't need no nonsense in your life.